Now, I've told you that Lake Las Vegas is one of my personal favorites in this entire valley. So when my comments started blowing up about homes shifting and sinking on their foundations and asking how I could still promote the community, I knew it was time to set the record straight. So here's the truth about the construction defect lawsuits at Del Webb in Lake Las Vegas and what that means for anyone considering buying there. This is the part of the story that no one else is covering. Well, I'm standing here on Mirage View Drive at the top of the ridge where the homes that I've seen on the news are having some issues. And what's interesting about all of this, the homes at the center of it are in a community that I've personally told you that I'd love to retire in someday. That irony is not lost on me, and that's why I'm not going to gloss over what I see happening. Now, I am not an attorney, I'm not a geotech engineer. This is from my perspective and experience as a real estate agent who has worked a lot in Lake Las Vegas, in Del Webb, and all around the lake. Now, recently a news article came out about a small group of homeowners beginning a legal fight with Pulte Group over some serious structural problems in their home. Now, that was the first clear, definitive information that I've seen on this situation. And then just this week, I received a copy of the attorney's Chapter 40 notice as a part of disclosure on a home I'm working on with buyers. So now this isn't just headlines, it's in writing. What started with a few homeowners has grown. Now, I have seen the pictures. I've seen the videos on the news, and we're talking about visible cracks running through the walls and backyards, uneven floors, and shifting that's created an actual tripping hazard, and that's real. Now, it's not something a simple coat of paint can fix, especially in a community designed for retirees. That's a serious concern, and I'm not going to minimize that for 1 second. One fall, and a 40-year-old might be able to walk it off, can be a disaster for people in the 55-plus age group. As you and I both know, the residents are completely in the right here. Now, for some context, the Del Webb community at Lake Las Vegas started construction in around 2020. It's a planned 750 home development that's still being built right now, and they're almost complete. Now, the homes in question are in the $1 million range. They're not cheap. They're marketed as resort-style living with access to the lake and golf course. Now, I hope they get made whole, and I am sure rooting for them. So what went wrong? Well, the root cause appears to be soil that wasn't properly compacted before construction began, at least in the area of the affected homes. Now, the land gets excavated, especially in the rugged terrain like you see behind me. The original dirt and rocks get removed, and then new soil is brought back in and compacted before the foundations go down. And that compaction process is critical. Now, according to reports and based on everything that the homeowners experts found at this site, well, it wasn't done properly in this section of the development. The ground seems to be settling unevenly, and the homes built on top of it are shifting right along with it. Now, I've obtained a report dated March of 2025. It's an official signed and sealed geotechnical engineering report by Western Technologies, and they tested 3 specific locations in Del Webb at Lake Las Vegas, including lots at 26 Mirage View, 128 Mirage View. Now, according to the report, all 3 test areas measured well above the minimum engineering standards for slope stability. The report was officially signed and sealed by senior geotech engineer Justin Heinke, along with Vice President Randolph Marwig. So the engineers for the homeowners and the engineers for the builders appear to disagree, and that's why this has to be settled in court. And stay with me, because when we get to what this means for buyers right now, including what my active clients are actually doing out here, it changes the entire conversation. But let me finish telling you the story about what's happening. So each affected home would need to be physically lifted off the foundation, re-leveled, stabilized, and lowered back down. Now, reports say that it'll take at least $500,000 per house, and that's before anyone touches the street and the landscaping or the surrounding infrastructure. So who's got all that money lying around after paying 7 figures for their home? Nobody. Now, here's the part that's getting lost in most of the coverage, and this is important. This appears to be isolated to a specific area within Del Webb and not the entire Del Webb community, and not all of Lake Las Vegas. Technically, there are 2 cases right now. The homes in the upper southwest corner of the neighborhood on Mirage View, and new reports of issues in a homeowners association lawsuit involving the clubhouse area and the Rockaway walls. Now, I'm standing right in front of the Rockaway wall in question below the clubhouse, and my untrained eye does not see any problems at all. Now, the homeowners association engineers say that there are problems, and the builders' engineers disagree. So we're keeping our eye on that situation, but this one doesn't seem to affect the homes directly. Now, Lake Las Vegas is a large master plan community with multiple builders, multiple neighborhoods, and homes built across different decades and different phases. Del Webb is just one section, roughly 10% of that larger community. And even within Del Webb, the affected homes are a fraction of what will ultimately be a 750 home development. Now, I've spoken with residents out here and with builder reps, and every indication I have points to a localized problem tied to soil preparation in one specific construction phase. I know of residents that are currently living in the community right now. They're aware of these issues, they're selling their home, and they're upgrading within the community because they love it so much here. Now, I'm still gathering data, talking to more people, and finding out more details, and I'll share them as soon as I learn them. But before we get into what this means for buyers, you need to understand the legal process behind all of this, because it's nothing like what most people assume. By this point, you're probably asking yourself what all this means for your specific situation, whether you're already looking at Lake Las Vegas for your next chapter or just trying to separate the real story from the headlines. My contact information is in the description below, and I'd love to have that conversation with you directly. All right, back to the video. Now, most people read homeowners sue builder and think that's it. Problem found, lawsuit filed, problem fixed. But that's not how this works, not even close. Right now, the legal fight isn't even about the foundations yet. It's about where this dispute gets resolved at all. Now, Pulte Group wants arbitration, pointing to the language in the homeowners, purchase contracts, and the HOA's governing documents. Now, the homeowners and their HOA have their own attorneys, and they're pushing for open court instead. Now, a judge heard the arguments in late March, and that ruling alone will determine whether this plays out behind closed doors or in public view. Now, this is what's called a Chapter 40 case. That's the section of Nevada law that governs construction defect claims. These cases require lawyers who specialize in construction defect law, and that specialization is not cheap. The process involves hiring geotechnical engineers, compiling extensive documentation, and following procedural requirements with deadlines so specific that missing one step can cost homeowners the right to pursue their claim entirely. Homeowners first have to send a formal notice to the builder in writing describing exactly what's wrong, where it is, and what damage it's caused. Once the builder gets that, they have 90 days to inspect and respond. They can offer repairs, a cash settlement, or dispute the claim, or even ask for more time. None of this can be skipped. It's mandatory before a lawsuit can even be filed. Now, attorneys clearly make more money when a case goes to court than when it gets resolved through mediation or arbitration. We all know how that works. And that creates built-in pressure to litigate whether or not litigation is the best outcome for the homeowners. Going to court is slow, expensive, and unpredictable. Arbitration can be faster and cheaper, but homeowners give up some of the leverage that comes from public proceedings. Public scrutiny really puts a lot of pressure on a company to perform. Now, the builder, Pulte, offers a 10-year structural warranty, but if the homeowners don't feel that they're responding properly, they probably feel they don't have much choice. Now, neither of these options are obviously correct. It depends on the strength of the case, the builder's willingness to settle, and how much risk the homeowners are prepared to take on. Now, when I research which is better, mediation or court, history shows that it can go either way. Now, these homeowners are doing the best they can in a difficult situation. Chapter 40 cases are complicated. They can take years, and outcomes can vary widely. I sincerely hope they get made whole, and I mean that. These people were at risk in their homes, which they paid 7 figures for, and they deserve compensation. Now, what makes this feel bigger than it actually might be is context, and Lake Las Vegas has a lot of it. Now, this isn't unique to Lake Las Vegas. What's happening at Webb right now has happened before in this valley, but on a much bigger scale. And the news coverage isn't reminding us of that. Every major home builder in America has faced construction defect lawsuits. Now, that doesn't make Pulte Group uniquely bad or incompetent. They're just a large builder operating at scale where problems are eventually going to surface. It's kind of unavoidable. And when you're building thousands of homes across dozens of markets with hundreds of subcontractors working under tight timelines and budgets, things can go wrong. Not always, not even most of the time, but often enough that construction defect law has become a specialized practice in every state where significant residential construction happens. Now, Pulte Group has dealt with cases like this before. Their Webb brand, the same brand we're talking about today, was part of a case in Arizona involving hundreds of homeowners in a retirement community. That went through arbitration. In California, Pulte was sued by owners of dozens of homes over construction defects involving multiple subcontractors. These are a part of doing business as a national builder at scale. Now let me tell you about the biggest construction defect case in Las Vegas history, because what's happening in Webb right now doesn't really compare. In the early 2000s, it came out that a brand of plumbing fittings called Kitech had been installed on tens of thousands of homes across Clark County. These fittings were defective, and zinc would leach out, build up inside, restrict the water flow, and eventually the fittings would fail, sometimes slowly, sometimes catastrophically, flooding the entire house. Now, the only real fix was to replumb the entire house, gut everything, and start over. More than a dozen major builders had used these fittings. Imagine the headaches the homeowners and builders went through over these Kitech fittings. And these are some big names. Some of the bigger ones were KB Homes, Webb, Pulte, Richmond American, Woodside Homes, and that was probably a huge wake-up call for them. Now, this was a valley-wide problem that cut across neighborhoods, price points, and builders. Homeowners eventually won a settlement worth many millions of dollars. Good for them. Most people got the settlement money, replaced their plumbing, and moved on. And you know what I think is really underappreciated? The history of how these situations have played out across the Las Vegas Valley, and I'll get to that in a second. But let me finish telling you about the plumbing issue first. Now, some people took that settlement money, but did not replumb their home. And that's exactly why I still request construction defect disclosures on every single resale purchase to this day. We have to check to make sure. There's also another Chapter 40 lawsuit in the works right now at Trilogy Summerlin. Homeowners there are preparing legal action over problems with common areas and shared infrastructure, not the individual homes themselves. It's still in pre-litigation phase, but another example of how these disputes play out across this valley with different communities and different builders. And Shea Homes is an award-winning home builder, and it really does happen to all large builders who operate at a large scale. The pattern is the same everywhere. Florida had widespread stucco defect litigation, while other states had their own versions. Now, this is not just a Las Vegas problem, and it's not just a Nevada problem. When you buy a new home, you're signing the builder's contract, the one the attorneys wrote to protect the builder. And that contract almost always requires mediation or arbitration before you can sue for damages in court. Now, resale contracts written by the MLS attorneys offer more protections for the buyer. That's just the reality of new construction. That's why specialized representation matters even more. I've had builder reps tell my clients that being represented by their own agent is not needed, and that is nonsense. Never, and I mean never, buy a new home without competent representation. The builder will pay for your representation unless you sign in by yourself. Now, knowing the history is one thing, and knowing what to actually do right now is what separate buyers who are protected from buyers who are finding out the hard way. In this particular case, regarding the soil at Lake Las Vegas, good agent representation may not have helped. Builders do soil testing and have reports. I've seen the soil testing reports and have read them. Now, if you're walking into the Webb sales office at Lake Las Vegas knowing everything we've just covered, what questions do you ask? What documents do you request? What does your agent need to be pushing for you on your behalf? This is exactly what we're going to get into now. Now, I have active buyers who know about this situation in full. They've read the headline, they've asked me about it directly, and honestly, some have pulled back. Others, on the other hand, are still moving forward with their eyes open and fully informed. Because Lake Las Vegas is a great community, the issue seems to be isolated to a specific construction phase in one part of the neighborhood, as well as the issue with the clubhouse on the Rockaway Wall. Now, the first thing you want to know is which phase of the community you're buying into. Now, Webb is a multi-phase development, and not all phases have the same soil conditions or the same grading. If you're looking at Webb specifically, find out which phase or section the home is in and whether that area has had any reported foundation or settling issues. And that's a question your agent should be asking before you ever set foot in a model home. From there, get a third-party home inspector, even on brand new construction. I always recommend that, especially on brand new construction. We all know that builders once in a while cut corners, so it's better to be safe than sorry. Now, a good inspector checks grading, drainage, foundation levels, all the systems, and signs of settling that an untrained eye might miss. Now, it's important to get them into the process early so they can inspect as the walls go up before they put up the sheetrock. Do not rely on the builder's own quality control process to protect you. That's not what it's designed to do. Unless you ask for something specific, they may not come out and just tell you. Now, on any resale, request disclosures. In Nevada, sellers are required to disclose known material facts, and of course, construction defect history qualifies. It's a simple ask, and it tells you about what you're walking into. Now, one thing that people don't like hearing is that the builder's sales reps work for the builder. They're very friendly and they're often very good at what they do, but their job is to move inventory and not represent you. Their job is to make profit for the builder. That's why having your own buyer's agent matters, particularly in new construction, where the contracts are long, complex, and written in the builder's favor. Now, something came out in the original reporting that's worth knowing. Soil compaction studies and geotechnical reports were actually included in the original purchase documents for these Webb homes. They all are. All builders do that. Now, I've read them, and most people don't. Now, the information was there. It was buried, of course, in hundreds of pages of disclosures and paperwork that almost nobody reads in full. And that's how new construction works everywhere. Builders disclose everything they're required to disclose, but they're not required to make it easy to find. Even if you read the studies, and the studies were good, like they are in this case, if it wasn't done correctly, how would you know? Now, as a real estate agent, my role here is pretty straightforward. I disclose, I inform, I refer people to the appropriate experts. Now, I'm not a geotechnical engineer, I'm not a soil expert, clearly, and I'm not an attorney. So if you want that level of analysis, I can absolutely connect you with the right profession. For context, a full geotechnical study on a single property can run somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000, and that typically involves drilling small holes down 30 to 50 feet, taking soil samples, and analyzing what's happening below the surface. Now, that kind of work is what builders are supposed to be doing up front, and they did. Those findings were included in the soil compaction and engineering report. But like I said, if something in one part of the neighborhood wasn't done correctly, how would you know? These aren't easy questions, and I'm not going to pretend that I have all the answers, but what I can do is make sure that you're aware of what's happening so that you can ask the right questions and connect you with people who can dig deeper. That's what full disclosure looks like, and that's exactly why I'm bringing this to you now. Still though, Lake Las Vegas is one of the most charming, livable communities in this entire valley. You get a private lake, you have waterfront living, Mediterranean-style village streets with restaurants, shops, golf, mature landscaping, and a pace of life that's hard to match anywhere else in Henderson or the Las Vegas Valley. I've got clients living in Lake Las Vegas right now who are searching for new homes. I absolutely love it here. I still would love to retire here someday. I love the vibe of Lake Las Vegas. But you need to go in with your eyes open, ask the right questions, and make sure to have someone competent in your corner. Now, the bottom line is when you pull back from all the headlines, what you're left with is pretty simple. The situation is serious for the people that are directly affected. No one should have to deal with a shifting foundation under their feet, and especially not a home they paid $1 million for in a community they chose for retirement. Now, I genuinely hope that these homeowners get made whole. I mean that completely, and I do think it'll work out in the end. But this appears to be isolated to a specific area within Webb, and construction defects do happen. They happened here in Las Vegas long before this on a much bigger scale, and they're happening somewhere in the country right now as we're talking. And they'll happen again in the future. That's just the reality of building homes. Communities worth having are always going to attract the most scrutiny, and Lake Las Vegas is no exception. Now, if you're considering Lake Las Vegas and want a straight answer on which areas are affected, which aren't, and exactly what to ask before you make any kind of decision, be sure to reach out and contact me. All my information is below, and I'll give you the honest picture as best as I know it. And by the way, an economist who briefed Las Vegas business leaders at the Wynn Hotel recently made a statement that flips the narrative most people have heard about retirees moving to this market. And if you've ever felt like you've needed to justify your decision to move here, the video I've linked right here is the one you need to watch. All right, friends, that's all for me today. Thanks so much for watching. I'm sorry I had to talk about this uncomfortable subject. It's not fun for me, but thank you so much for watching. I love you, friends. I'll see you on the next video. Peace out.